So give yourselves a woo. Woo! Oh, y'all are good. But you gotta get the hands going too. So, okay, will you do it again? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo! Hey, good morning. Welcome. Like the woo. You see this beautiful girl I have right here? Everybody, this is my daughter, Alicia. Say hi, Alicia. Hi. So how is everybody this morning? So I would love it if you would go to the comments and just say hello, say good morning, so I know somebody's out there. And where do you live? I'm going to type a little hello in here to make sure that the chat is working. Comments, let's see here. I'm typing hello and it is not taking it. So we'll see what's going on there. But if you guys would like to be so kind as to do that, that would be great. And tell me where you live. So Alicia, where do you live? You're joining us this morning. Tell us where you live. They don't know.
Wisconsin.
Like where in Wisconsin?
Oh, Chippewa Falls. It is a small town.
Outside of somewhere.
Outside of Eau Claire, which is also a smaller town.
Oh.
Or small-ish.
Oh, small. Okay.
About 170 miles from Green Bay.
All right. That helps give an idea.
So,
yeah.
The middle of Wisconsin.
Cool. Can you believe that she had the audacity to move out of town when we were moving in? It was one of those things. It was a great job opportunity for you guys and wonderful thing for the family. And that's what we always are going to go for. But it was kind of a shock. We both had like pit in the stomach, right?
Been waiting a long time. So
yeah, so we've been gone for 20 years. And of course the kids were gone. So when we left Kansas City, just FYI, some of y'all know this, some don't. So the kids graduated, went on to do their things. And I think, I don't remember where you were at that time, either Oklahoma. I don't think you were in California yet. Anyway, she moved and Justin moved and they were different places. And so Bill and I said, why are we staying here in Kansas City? So we moved to Las Vegas, which is where my dad was. And the whole point of the move really in the beginning was to be there with my dad because we loved it out there and be where the sunshine is and there's no humidity. So we moved away. The kids were gone. And who did you know? They both moved back here. Like, oh my gosh. So the whole point of us now moving back to Kansas City was because both kids were here. But 8 hours is a lot better than 22.
yes.
Yeah. So it's really just a much better situation. So we love that. So Alicia and I, so my kids, we've just always watched movies. We're really movie buffs. There's some movies we've watched, dozens of times or whatever. So we were trying the other night. So she's visiting during their spring break, visiting here this week. And we were sitting, she said, I said, what do you want to watch? You want to watch something on TV? No, we don't really watch TV. And I said, well, what movies? And there's just no movies that were interesting at all. And then you went looking. Do you want to tell us? Talk about that a little bit?
I don't know why I came up with it, but decided it would be fun to watch olden timey movies on Disney that we used to watch when I was little. Yeah. So we found Pollyanna.
And we also found, what was the one? Parent Trap. Parent Trap. Both have Haley Mills in them. So hey, maybe we got on a Haley Mills kick or something.
She was my favorite.
So she was just great. So we turned on Pollyanna and it reminded me of all these things. So that's why we're talking about that this morning. So Pollyanna, the book was written in 1913 by Eleanor Porter. And I just found out last night, I was doing a little research, that she actually wrote a sequel to that, Pollyanna Grows Up. So I'm going to go and search. I looked on Amazon. It's not there. So maybe check out a couple of libraries. Because I'd love to read the follow-up. It'd be kind of nice to see what the actual author felt. And I guess there's another 5 books about Pollyanna, but written by different authors. So I'm not sure I want to read those. I'd rather stick probably with the original author. But in any case, so how is your overall feeling, Alicia? this is new for her. She doesn't really like talking in front of people, but you're so good. So, what did you think about it when we were watching it?
It was cute. You are Pollyanna.
I don't think so.
No, it is. Even my dad says sometimes that you are Pollyanna.
So, okay, so what does that mean? If somebody is Pollyanna, what are they?
We're really positive, very smiley, and they call her a goody two shoes in the movie, which is, I think, can be portrayed as negative.
Yeah, it usually is. Like, oh, like goody two shoes. I never did like that. People did call me that.
It's just, you're so, Mom, you're so sunshiny. It's sunshine and sunshine.
Well, I guess there could be worse things.
Could be worse. But it's like which is something that has been great in my life and my experiences, is that as far as Pollyanna goes, she is not judgmental at all. If she didn't care, she would befriend the grumpy old people or whatever. So that's a good part of why you are Pollyanna.
Oh, thanks.
You're not judging.
And that is, yeah.
That's
okay. I didn't want to interrupt.
No.
And hi, Kathy. Good morning. And Facebook user, if you will give Facebook permission to release your name, that would be great. Let me see here. If I can I'll put this banner on right here. It's just actually facebook.com. I mean, streamyard.com/Facebook. So then it'll tell me, because right now it's just showing Facebook user. So I don't know who you are. So you can tell us who you are. So yeah, so I started thinking about that. And when I put the little ditty in there last night about lessons learned from Pollyanna. So when we watched it the other night, I really realized several lessons that are just in there. They're kind of subtle. Some of them are not so subtle, but she loved being in the kitchen with the servants, I guess, you would call them. They're hired, they're in their kitchen. And what was it, Alicia? I think I might miss that part. Why did Pollyanna have to go to the kitchen? She did something wrong, and Aunt Polly said, go eat with Nancy.
No, she wanted to be. I think she wanted to be down there and eat lunch with them.
Oh, okay. Because I couldn't remember, but she did love to be down there. And so the cook and the housekeeper and Nancy, who was kind of the assistant. So for those of you who don't know, I am assuming everybody knows the basic story. So in general, now it's a little bit different from the book, but the Disney version in 1960 shows that her parents, and this was true in both, her dad was a missionary. He was a pastor. And then he died, and his sister was Polly. So she went to live with Aunt Polly. And Aunt Polly was, how would you characterize Aunt Polly?
Old money, snobby, no feelings.
Yeah, pretty cool. I kind of wonder now, where does she get all her money if her brother had nothing? And why didn't she support him? Because she proclaimed to be the upright Christian person, so much so that she tried to tell the pastor of the church what he should preach on Sundays. I mean, that was pretty amazing. She sent him a note every week and said, you might want to look at these scriptures to keep people in line. So her whole thing, she was all about control. She was big money. Her family, actually, most of the people in town worked for her companies, and so when it came to anything going on, Aunt Polly had to kind of approve and give the positive nod for anything to be done in the town. So she, by feeling like she had no other choice, took Pollyanna in. And she had this big house, and in the movie, it's a really cool house. And she put Pollyanna's room in the very top attic. I mean, messy, chairs around, no curtains, nothing, because she didn't really want this child to be there. But she did it by obligation. And that was one of her characteristics, that she did everything out of obligation, not out of love, not out of kindness. And so she was just, like you said, a very cool person, right? So Pollyanna, when she came, here she had lost her parents, and she was there with this unloving woman, but she just never looked at that negative side. It was just amazing, just all through the whole show, up until one little point towards the very, very end. She always kept her optimism and her faith, and she always would talk about her dad. So the first night at dinner, remember when she was saying, "My father says," and Polly said, "Well, let's get this straight. I don't really want to hear what your father had to say." And I thought, now I'm going to go down a little different road here. So um, when she says, "My father says," I thought, as Christians, maybe we should do that a little often. As our Father, the Heavenly Father, my Heavenly Father says to love each other. And that, I don't know, just kind of came because that was her response. Her dad had really taught her about love and kindness and respect. So it just was pretty profound. So she quit talking about it, except when she wasn't with Aunt Polly. Mm-hmm. So now tell us some of the people. So Pollyanna, was a small enough town, she could just leave the house and go around town. So why did you say she's not judgy? Like when she was meeting other people, who did she talk to?
Well, she talked to all the grumps and the people who just didn't want to be bothered, I guess. So she didn't look at them as if they were less than or because they didn't have money. That kind of not snobby kind of thing. She befriended the orphans. She just wasn't judgy. She didn't care. She just wanted to bring sunshine.
And she had a game she played. You want to talk about the GLAD game? So how does the GLAD game work?
You can tell me.
Okay. So it was an amazing thing, and she taught everybody around her about this. So the GLAD game, she and her dad came up with this because at one point, so as a missionary, they had no money. They didn't have anything. She never had a doll. So she had asked, her dad said he would ask the missionary, they would send out, I guess, barrels with things that the missionaries would need. And he asked for a used doll to give to his daughter, to Pollyanna. And so when it came, the barrel, there was no doll. Remember what there was? Crutches. And so he said to her something to the likes of, "Well, there must be some reason. I mean, there must be something good about having these crutches." And so he made up the game, the GLAD game. Let's see if we can't find something good in everything. So maybe that's a good idea for all of us to be looking for the good in things, right? So do you remember what they found, the GLAD thing about the crutches?
She didn't need to use them.
That's right. So they could be happy about the fact they didn't need them. Yeah, I guess if they ever did, they would have them there ahead of time. Huh?
They probably did.
They probably did. Oh, need them at some point?
Yeah,
they did. Oh, you're right. You can talk a little bit louder.
No.
So, yes, Alicia just said, well, at the very end, she did need that. And it's like, oh, that's right, because she was paralyzed. So they did. So she would go in. So there's several main characters besides Aunt Polly, and then Nancy was like her closest confidant who worked for Aunt Polly. But as she went into town, the Ladies' Aid Society would get together all these baskets and then deliver them to people in town who might need this and some kind of food. I didn't even know what it was. Some kind of something jelly. Anyway. Huh? Lamb jelly? I don't know. I don't know what that is. But in any case, so she and Nancy helped deliver some of the baskets. And she went up to this one man and he said, "I don't take charity. I don't want any of that stuff." And she said, "This isn't charity. This is just a little gift from one friend to another." It's all in how our presentation. I thought that was just great. And later in the movie, he does something very kind to her. And she said, "You don't have to give me that." He said, No. This is just one friend to another. It was so like a perfect follow-up. Then she went to visit Oh, she had to take him. Oh, to the Mrs. Snow. So Mrs. Snow was bedridden on her last breath, supposedly. And oh no, the funeral guy was there. You want to talk about that a little bit? The funeral guy?
No.
No. So the guy from the funeral home was there at Miss Snow's house and had the linen for the casket. She was picking out what color liner, the silk, I guess, the silk liner for the coffin, and the coffin itself, the handles for the coffin for her to pick out, so that when she passed, because she was telling everybody and her daughter who was waiting on her hand and foot. And Pollyanna comes in, and boy, she's like, why are you preparing to die? Why aren't you living? And so she really helped Mrs. Snow change her perspective. So isn't it true that it's all about our perspective? It's not really so much what's happening to us, that it's your perspective. This woman was living to die as opposed to just living until that happened. Why get overly concerned? Yes, we all have to have a will and basic things, but she was literally every day preparing to die. And the funeral guy, he was like, from the funeral home, he was wanting Pollyanna, get out of there. Remember that? Like, what, does she really have to be in here? But Pollyanna befriended her and showed her how to put a prism in her window and make rainbows on the wall, which is very cool. And she got that from the other guy. So then there was an old man in town. Same thing. He was older, was really grumpy, and he would scare all the kids. And he sent the message out that he would kidnap kids and put them in his basement, so stay away from his house. But she did. She went out into all parts of town. Her best friend became this little orphan boy, which as things came along, the old man who said he was putting kids in the basement with the rats, it was like a terrible thing, right? So what other things did you notice about her, Alicia? So just, tell us a little bit of particular things that stood out to you in the show. Okay.
I'm on the spot, so I'm uncomfortable. She was. I'll patch her. Okay. She was just really kind, and I feel like if people just like they didn't look at people the way that they come across, then they probably figure out that people are really nice. And in this movie, she didn't take it for face value. I think she wanted these people to know that they were important and that they were loved, even though they like shut down any type of anything to kind of try to get that from other people. And I think that that's nice that, there's people who don't care.
Because so she was just a disrespecter. It didn't matter what level of society, so to speak, that they were, whether they were rich, whether they were poor, grumpy. Particularly, it seemed like once she met a grumpy, mean type of person, she overdid. I mean, she wanted to make sure that they knew she was just there to be their friend. She didn't want anything from them. And I think sometimes people do think the reason that we're being nice to them or looking out for them is because they believe, because our society has kind of set us up that way. They think that you're only doing that because you want something. You want to sell them something. You want them to give you whatever it is. So, particularly if somebody's in the wealthy range, like Aunt Polly, and even Mrs. Snow, and I think Mr. Prendergast, that was his name, I think they were in the wealthy categories because they were in these big houses. So that's kind of what they do in movies to show you who has money and who doesn't. Those were all people that, really felt like somebody was just out to take their money or to manipulate them in some way. But who's going to take, an 11-year-old girl is coming out to get you? You can't really go down that road. I mean, you know, she would have no ulterior motive. And so she just really showed that. And people began to look at each other differently because of her influence. And I think then we get to the point of one person can make a difference. I know this is just a movie. Okay, it's all made up. But the lessons are really there that one person can make a difference. If you're looking at things from a positive standpoint, if you're accepting people as they are, not expecting them to change or expecting anything from them, then maybe that will inspire them to do the same thing to other people. Each of you that are watching, have relationships. You have a sphere of influence and people that you mentor or live life with, whether it's family or people in your church or other organizations. How we treat others maybe will inspire them to, to do the same to other people as well. And the whole ripple effect of what can happen when we live that way, that I think can make a profound difference in the world. That's how we change the world. So if you had a whole bunch of Pollyannas out there, all of y'all can be the Pollyanna in your neighborhood, and just, they gave the quote. Now let me see here. The quote that said, and they said it was from Abraham Lincoln, but when I was looking up stuff last night, it said they really can't find that was attributed to Abraham Lincoln. They say that the first notice of that was actually in this book, but I guess she didn't want to say that she was saying it herself, or maybe she had some other information. But he said, let's see if I can find it in my notes here. He says, well, basically he said, she said that Abraham Lincoln said, if you look for bad in people, you'll find it. So the opposite is true. If you look for good in people, you will find it. So as you go through your life looking for good, play the glad game. How can you take this negative situation and turn it into good? And I think we've all heard stories where, various people who have major challenges in their life, that have cancer, that have Alzheimer's, the caregivers that give so much of their time. One thing that I've heard so consistently is, as bad as that was, the time they had with that person in their life was priceless. That they got to spend that time and all those hours with that person before they pass. So even though it's a totally horrible situation, and when you have a parent or someone that you love pass away, that's an awful thing. But when they look back and see the time they have, like I said, I hear that a lot from caregivers. So, I really do believe there's something good that you can find in these things. And just, like I say, even if it's just a game that you play with yourself in your own head. What do you think about the glad game?
I think it's great. I think it will help a lot of people, myself included.
Can you think of how some ways that people can look at things from a different perspective? Just not right off the top of your head.
Well, I feel like sometimes if people looked at the good in something in the moment, it might stop them from, in sobriety and in AA and stuff, we would say future tripping. So I think if they saw something good in the moment, it would help them in the future for not going down a road of purely negative. It might help go down a road that's more positive, even though that's really difficult sometimes. Mm-hmm. But even finding, like, one day at a time, like what's good about today? What am I glad about today? Or, making a gratitude list. I feel like gratitude and glad could coincide a little bit, maybe. But it's hard to do that when you're in the moment, but I feel like it would help. And I think that it would be, a nice lesson for everybody. And, obviously I'm not talking about everybody without including myself. Because I can be a little negative Nancy sometimes.
You even named it.
Negative.
Negative. Well, I think we all can. I mean, I think there's times when things happen that maybe we, you know, like, oh man. I think the one question I never ask because there's no answer. I never ask why. Why is this happening to me? Why did this have to happen? Because there's no answer to why. It does happen. It just happens. And so, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to look at it? How, from what perspective? And I love what you said about gratitude and glad. I mean, I think it is because here's the thing: if you're being grateful, you are going to be glad. You're glad that you have this blessing, whatever that you're being grateful for. But if you can't be grateful and negative at the same time. You can't say, you know, I hate this, or you can't be grumpy and glad at the same time, right? And you can't be grumpy. You want to come say hi, honey? You want to come say hi? We're talking. My little grandson here, y'all. You know this is a personal show, so you want to come say hi to everybody? No, guess not. My 5-year-old, 5.5-year-old little Henry is here with us, so it's been exciting to have them. So I think as we move forward, it really is just a way to when you have, so just think of the glad game. And actually, I didn't know this, but Milton Bradley, you know, the game people, the people that make games, they actually right around the time, I think it was when this movie was put out, they actually made a game called the Glad Game. It didn't last very long. It's not out there anymore. But I wonder how did they do it? Maybe they gave little circumstances and you had to figure out a way to find something glad about it. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to know that. Have little cards, make cards. If this happens, how can you be glad? You know, or how can you make it glad? Okay, you want to go here? Or you want to come in there he is. You want to say hi, Henry? Or come stand here by Mimi. No, he's busy. He's on his way to get something. So anyway, well, that is our message for today, everybody. So Grace, thank you. She said this is a great conversation. I bet you have, Grace, knowing you as I do. I've been called a Pollyanna in the past and wasn't sure how to take it, but now I feel blessed. Yeah, it has been used. I mean, a lot of times it's like, oh, she's just such a Pollyanna, you know, overly positive, whatever. But you know, in this day and world, let's all be Pollyanna. Let's have more Pollyannas in the world. This is my baby. You want to say hi to everybody? You can wave. Still a little bit sleepy this morning. All right, everybody. Thank y'all for being here. Any other last comments anybody wants to make? So, oh, hey, Terry Ann, good morning. I didn't see you there. Now I see you. Great. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for your time. I just love it that you'll spend time with me on Tuesday mornings. Alicia, even though I know you were a little embarrassed or whatever, but good job. Thanks for being here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Love the family show. Okay.
Hashtag be a Pollyanna.
Oh, that's good, Terry Ann. Let's do that. Be a Pollyanna. If that means positive, happy, and sharing a little positivity in the world, that is a good thing. So, love you guys. Thank you for being here. And remember that life is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. So, you can choose to be positive. You can choose to live your life looking for the good and being a little Pollyanna. All right, guys. Thanks so much. God bless you indeed.
Bye.
Bye.